All right, so the best ways I handle stuff is you guys ask a question and I'll expand on them. So I do the same thing here, and it'll keep it clean and precise. What do you want to start with?
Just talk to us how practice has gone so far and what you guys have accomplished.
Here's my overview of where we're at. And the first thing that I'd say coming into camp and coming in for everybody is this is a new era. And what I mean by a new era is in college football, college athletics in general, there's nothing that's the same. With the things that are not in our control, which is coming off the pandemic and not playing and playing in the spring, all those things are new. You're coming off of there's some new opportunities for players in NIL. There's just so many things going on that is new. And so it isn't like it's a new era of systems and schemes, but college athletics and UNI football, it's a whole new era of what's going on that's outside of football. Then when you get to the football side of it, technically, to me, it is a new era in football because we need to establish and have worked hard to establish the standard that we believe is what UNI football is. So we got to reestablish that for a fall season and get back to what people call normalcy and what I call just the standards and the structure that we need to live by and uphold to so that we can have success with 105 guys operating on the same field. And we lost, and I think college athletics, I think a lot of people have lost that structure with Zooms and things that you can't really control through that, uncontrollables, but now we're back into the controllables that we can have more of a consistency, and I think that's probably the biggest word. There's consistency now for progress. There's consistency for the message to send them, and that's probably what we miss the most, and I think you see results of that, at least I did, of what you wanted to be and what it actually was. So to answer your question, the message to them is absolutely, there's a new era. There's nothing that's the same as. But when you get lined up the thing and start talking football, there'll be a lot of similarities. There's even differences in this media day, okay? Just because of the internet and the things that people can do now by watching it instead of being there. And then you have all the construction going on. New era around here is, man, it's been years since we built anything for football. We are in a great position as far as facilities are concerned. During this last year, because of going through fundraising since 2013 this has been going on for years for the team room. So the Van G. Miller team room that you all know about now, part of the reason why we're not practicing the dome is because over 5 to 7 years of fundraising and community and former players stepping up and creating a team room for us, man, we're not practicing the dome because that construction's going on. And it's an elite room, and we're just fortunate enough that the Van Miller was the one that presented the closing funding that we could get that going, and it needed to be going now. This time next year, this thing will be held in that room. And we will have to live through the progress, but the progress is all for the right reasons. Second thing is, you all were at the event, was the Doug and Ann Gotchke's outdoor practice field. That outdoor practice field is elite. Plain elite. And everything we're doing right now, they're finishing that up, and next Monday they're going to start to put the AstroTurf down. So that's how close to being. It's worth your drive-by. If you don't want to take a picture, it's worth your drive-by to look. It looks elite, okay? And it's still in the middle of construction. And when you have facilities that are elite, man, it just makes everybody more proud of who you're playing for and take more pride in your university, and it gives a better resemblance of what you want to present as a team as much as to your team. And those two facilities do that. And now you have to take your play to that same standard, of an elite standard, not just a get-by standard. You need to take everything to that elite standard. And when you present facilities like that due to two great gifts to finalize those things, to me it's a mindset, and it's a new era because you're creating that mindset. Last time we did this was the locker rooms, and it changed the complexion of team, and it changed the complexion of the dome. And that's what you're looking at North End. Same thing is going to happen this year with these two things when they're completed. You won't see the end result probably till 6-12 months from now, but it will be a difference maker for many years to come, but more so it's just an image, okay? And the last thing I'd say to that, just for in my slang, it's kind of like my garage or my junk drawer. If you don't take care of it, then you just start throwing stuff around and you don't have detail. When you take care of stuff and it's organized, you have detail, and when you try to teach somebody, they stay to that same detail and that organization, and that's what I mean by creating that, is reestablish that structure and that detail that you need to be successful for as many years as we've been here. But we have to reestablish that because it doesn't come just because you've been here, okay? It doesn't matter what we did last year, 10 years ago. What matters is what we do now, and our administration has been phenomenal working through all this, and our players are adapting to practicing over at Waterloo. We go to the Waterloo Stadium every day, and what's very noticeable about the Waterloo Stadium is the surface. That surface has created, I didn't even realize how much of a safety factor is on that surface versus the field that we were on. I think it has helped us have 4 really good days, and we have a very, in those same 4 days in comparison to the past 5 years, that first 4 days, we are way down as far as injuries and some of the things, and probably have practiced harder. And a lot has to do, as I'm finding out, I believe, is that surface is made for daily practices. It's smooth, it's got the cushion, it saves the legs, and it gives where it's supposed to when you get collisions. I think it has already helped us in the first 4 days as far as the injury is. I can't say for sure, but I do believe after what I've seen outside versus that surface, and that's what we're getting. So we're very fortunate, and it's great for our players and great for our program.
In regard to that, it sounds like you're ahead as far as injuries, but overall camp, since you had to go through this just a few months ago, and there hasn't been as big of a gap, are you ahead on starting spring drills this year?
We're not ahead in the regard that I think you're leaning towards in the question. Where we're ahead is maybe they have the knowledge because it's the same football team, right? Maybe the terms are similar to them that they can recall. That is your head on. Where we're behind, or what we need to establish in any camp, including this one, is that structure that you need when you're with your players 24/7. I mean, right now there's no school. There's, the Saturdays, Sundays are similar to Mondays and Tuesdays. So for 3 weeks, we can totally have the communication with them to send the message that you want to instill in them. That takes time to do. Versus in the spring, we never had that opportunity because it was like 2 practices going 2 different times, school going on. Some guys were there, some guys weren't there. It was all over the board. So you couldn't instill to a team what you wanted to because of the circumstances and the challenges that were presented. Now we can because they're under our umbrella, and we've got all the time in the day to structure the day for them so that we can send the message we want consistently over weeks and not just days. And I think that is the basis of why you do camp. It's where you create your team. We've created the athletes in the summer. We're creating our team as we go through this process.
You've got a new coach on your staff, if I'm not mistaken, coaching running backs?
Yeah, the coaches are this. And when you even say new to that, I'd say he's new, but he's old. And so I always like to have coaches that are familiar with the university and understand that we are very unique here. We look like a football team, but we're very unique how we have to create our football team within our region and within our heck, we're the only FCS program in the state, and we've got 2 tremendous BCS programs. So how do we develop our players? How do we function in the same format to build a Division I program? And that's why I bring in the coaches to be able to do that, understanding how to do it here versus maybe somewhere else. And the coach you speak of is Atif Austin. So I brought Atif Austin in. Atif Austin was with us 2005 through 2010, I believe. Okay, I may be wrong by a year, but he was here 2005. We played for the national championship in 2005. It was his first year of coaching, coming out of it like many of these young coaches we've had in the past. He was one of those coaches. Then he ended up taking it, once he, like many young coaches, he started going his own path. And most recently, he was at Northern Illinois. Previous to that, he was with the Patriots. And previous to that, he was at North Dakota State. He knows the league. He knows our team. He knows how I structure our practices and our team and what the expectation is. So to me, it doesn't break rhythm. but at the same time, it is a new person to the players that they're getting acquainted with him. So he's coaching the running backs. Sam McLaren he's coaching the tight ends. He's an assistant offensive coach, and he's coaching the tight ends. What I like about Sam is he proved himself to me during last spring because he was a volunteer last spring and basically was setting bags, running around trying to get practices ready for all the other coaches. But he was on top of it, and he was in all our meetings and things, and we were trying to figure out where he fits, and there was an opportunity, and I thought he proved his eagerness to do this, and he has the ability to do it. So he's an assistant offensive coach, and he'll be working with the tight ends. Brandon Keith, same thing. Brandon Keith came in here last spring, and again, another volunteer in the spring that is now on the staff because he's an assistant offensive coach, but he too is working with the offensive line and the tight ends. Brandon played for us. He understands the level of play. He played for the 07-08 team that had lost, I believe, 2 or 3 games in 2 years, and he played with a tremendous group, and then he played in the league for 7 years. So he brings UNI as much as he brings experience, and he understands the what UNI football is, what UNI is, and when you have that kind of mentor that has actually came through the program, he can relate to what the players are going through now and explain his experiences. Even as an NFL player, in the end, he experienced all the things these players are today. So he's a great mentor. So those 3 are the 3 new bodies, if you want to call it that, from last season that have a lot more responsibilities and a lot more impactful positions for this season for us. Sean Watson's going to be the offensive coordinator, quarterback coach, and Joe Gantz is the receiver coach, and Ryan Clan is your offensive line coach. On the flip side, you're looking at Bryce Pop, defensive line, JJ with the coordinator linebackers, DJ with the assistant head coach linebackers, and then Keelan Brookins is coaching our corners.
Just to follow up on Coach Watson, obviously it was unusual spring for everybody, but Coach Mahaffey takes an opportunity to go and be with the Packers. Coach Watson's kind of thrust into that role, so I'm sure he was balancing, putting his stamp on things while trying to create a game plan that can win for everybody. So how does it make you feel going into the fall now that Coach Watson has this opportunity under normal circumstances to do what he wants to do in conjunction with Coach Clanton and everybody else involved?
I think how it makes me feel is that we're in a position that they have an opportunity for that consistency from start to finish without changing midstream or making adjustments 2 weeks before the first game, at least in communication in a staff room. Because that room, just like players, there's a lot of nonverbal communication as much as there's communication. There's a lot of trust that has to happen in that room, that you're taking care of your position, giving the same message to them, what I expect that I'm giving you in the staff room. So there's one standard, at least, that they all can sit in a room and complete, and then now it's just keeping that standard, that technique, that fundamental, whatever the design of the play is, be consistent with what is being told the players. When you're switching position or switching words sometimes, it's more confusing than you think of just switching a word. That takes time to spin where it becomes reactive instead of have to stop and think about it. So yes, the consistency is what I feel good about, but I'm still in the same position of the development of players is what this is about, and that will come down to the individual coaches at their positional drills to improve technique and improve the individual performance, and then it's up to us as a group to bring it into a team performance.
Can you talk about the challenge of opening with Iowa State and what opportunity that presents to you guys?
Well, it's the opportunity is I don't know if opportunity is a word I'd use. I'd probably use more the fact that Iowa State is, as I read about what's being written on them, is a great football team. And what I read about them, it's their best football team they've had, and they've got very high expectations, and they've got 19 of 22 starters coming back. If I've read that correctly, there might be more than that. I think there is, but what I saw on the roster, but they're saying there's 19, and I think there's more, so that's not good. But all being said is they're a great football team with a system and a structure that makes them a great football team. So they're very athletic, but yet they're a very good football team as well, is the way to say it. So yes, they are a huge challenge. I don't know if you want to call it an opportunity. They're a challenge. So we'll worry about them the week of Iowa State, but I do know by what I've seen written by everybody that they are the cover page of every college FBS program right now. They're on the cover of it, and their quarterback's on the cover of it, and their records and their things that their expectation is the cover of the Big 12. So I get it. You've kind of told me they're really good, so I probably need to get really prepared.
Coach, you've expanded your quarterback room. Talk the process of bringing in a couple transfer quarterbacks to challenge and maybe give more depth to that room.
Well, here's the whole purpose of that. It's related to your last question. You've got competition on Saturday, but the only way you can get ready for competition on Saturday is competition on Monday through Thursday. And so an emphasis that I made as a head coach, the decision I made was to create competition in the quarterback room and to create competition in the running back room. And I was doing it with a couple others, but those two we really did a nice job on. And I believe now we have competition in that quarterback room that we will be able to battle that position out. And we brought in Theo Day from Michigan State, and we brought in Matt Morrissey from Trinity Valley. Those two were added. On the offensive running back side, we brought in Braderick Shaw, and we brought in Vance McShane. So add those to the players that were already here. You create an internal competition, and now as they make each other battling for the position, it's going to make our football team better. And that's what I mean by internal competition is going to make us a better team more than external competition, because that's just the end result. So the purpose is to make the team better and to make more so the individuals better at that position. With two guys coming in, that will ramp up the starters game. And for the younger guys, you had Fambi get a start last year. Of course, you've had Will get starts. So if you're Will or Justin, it's got to ramp your game up too, knowing that there's two other guys here with quality talent that can challenge you, and that's going to make you put your time in to get good. I just know when I was a player, when they brought in a Mississippi State linebacker, man, I went to work knowing I always worked, but he motivated me that I better do more work. Otherwise, it's not going to be my job. So it makes you work, and it makes you do the time to make you better during the week. Then we'll see what happens on Saturday. But if it goes down like it should make us a better team, a group of segment of players. Maybe you see one, but the segment will be better because of the competition.
So if you had to play Iowa State on Saturday, Will McElvain still your number one quarterback?
No, I'd probably play wishbone. so you know, we're going to end up there's competition for a reason, because there's no starters. It's not fair. In the same breath, as I told the team, I'm telling you, there is a first group and a second group and a third group. Absolutely. Today there will be, tomorrow there will be. But as I'm going through it, if it's competition, that will change many times as we go through the next few weeks. Otherwise, somebody's really going to establish themselves and start to separate themselves, even if it's a competitive group. But if it's competitive, it will be close, and that means that there will be a back and forth going on, and that creates even a better opportunity to raise the bar of that segment.
Mark, are there any of the guys that were either starters or impact players last year that aren't going to be able to go because of injuries at the start of camp? Or are you healthy in that regard?
To a degree, yes. And when I say to a degree, the asterisk is Christian Boyd got hurt in that last football game. He will be available for the Iowa State game. He will not be going through practice with us. He's out there, he runs and does some things. He's limited, but by the time you get 2-3 weeks from now, he'll be full contact, and we'll get him ready by the first game day. Jayden Scott is in the same boat. He got hurt last year during camp, and he's coming off that injury. He is not contact eligible right now. He's practice eligible, so he can do some things in practice, but he's got to stay out of the contact for another couple of weeks. So that limits their progress, so we have to challenge them in other areas to get ready to play, and then when we finally get them on the field, they're going to have to pick up the game more quickly as far as getting ready for the live contact, because it'll be a short window for them to get ready to do that. So those are the two that stand out to me that are starters, if you want to call them that, from last year, that are impactful players that are limited right now.
Coach, did Mason Nyson have to retire?
Oh, Mason, well, yeah, okay, so now I'm going to add to that. So you brought up Mason. Mason, yes, he did. Mason's taken a medical hardship this year, so his injury, he could not come back from, okay? He tried last spring, did not get to play last spring, so he'll take a medical for his last semester and graduate in December. And the other one is Nick Ellis. I did not bring up Nick. Nick just had surgery, I believe it was last Thursday, and it was an extensive surgery to redo what he did, and it just didn't come back right. So he had to go back into surgery. He tried to come back, and we found out through the summer that he just couldn't make it. So he immediately went to. He's out for the season due to this injury. So Nick Ellis and Mason Neeson are the two that, even though they didn't play in the spring, will not be available this fall.
You're picked to finish 5th in the preseason poll in the Missouri Valley Football Conference. Is that motivates you, or is that just a statement in how strong this conference is?
No, to me, it's a prediction, and it's a prediction that some guys got together that are very knowledgeable about football and made a prediction. Okay, to me, I'm working on the process of getting these guys ready and how they prepare. So I'm not going to get involved with predictions, nor should a player. It should be about how do we prepare, and the things that I've already talked about are what we're locked into. But that's a prediction made by a lot of guys that watch football. So ask them.
Coach, just like the majority of FCS teams, you're playing 2 seasons in 1 calendar year.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, that's not how they designed this game of football.
Yep.
Is there anything you can do on the front end to make sure the toll on the bodies is as less as possible, or as little as possible throughout the course of the year?
I think that's a $25 million question, because we're the only division that did this. And now we're going to see the pros and the cons of it moving forward. The cons is a Christian Boyd, okay, of what happened to him, that he couldn't have that summer of lifting, and quite frankly, an entire football team could not lift January through May, and that's where we'll find out. What I have to guard against is, and be smart with, is if lifting is for 2 reasons. One, absolutely, get physically stronger and create a better physical body mechanic to play better. But it also is creating a more safe, structured body to withstand hits and shoulders and things like that. And if you don't do the lifts, okay, even if we miss a lift some summers or some winters, a shoulder injury starts to happen to our football team. We'll get 3, 5, 8 of them. Well, that's because maybe we didn't do overhead lifts in that previous winter. We've learned over Jed and I working together. Jed, I think he's been 12 years in the weight program, by trial and error as much as by experience. Maybe some years we didn't do an overhead lift and we had shoulder problems. Now we're going into a season we did not get to lift January through May in the way that you want to, which is as much for safety as it is for quality. And what will happen, what will be that injury that may rear its head that we didn't get to establish the strength in going into a whole nother season on our schedule. So I think that's going to play out, and we're going to be able to have to adapt when we do so. As far as the football side of it, I'm not going to change the way we have camp, because I think now I'm just continuing the non-normalcy of what we just experienced. I'd rather get back to what we know works, even though it may have a hiccup due to some of the things that weren't in our control.
The pass rush on the defense is always such an important part of all 11 being successful. You look back at the spring, obviously there's not an Ellerson Smith on the field or a Carter Schultz, but across the line, whether it be Jarrett or Bronte, there's like a by-committee approach. Can that make things maybe a little untraditionally difficult on opponents, that you've got guys across your line that are all a pass rush threat? You anticipate that each of those guys, if you want to call their number, more than capable of getting to the quarterback, interior, out on the edge?
Good question. My thought on trying to answer that is, you're right, there's not one guy that say go focus on that one guy, slide to him, chip him. There's not an Ellerson, okay, right now. We're in the process trying to develop who that next one will be. But where you're at right now is what you're asking, and what I'd say is over the course of our experience, right now, Jared Brinkman is a great talent. I'll even fade back to Carter Schultz. We had 1 year there that Carter Schultz became the Defensive Player of the Year, and he was much like players we have today. He wasn't Ellerson either, but he created the same numbers and probably had a higher ranking as far as production than Ellerson did. And yet it was his motor what made him different, and the motor being his intensity, tenacity, every down he was on the field. It was unorthodox at time, but the consistency was the motor and the energy he brought. So you can become a great pass rusher through energy, unorthodox, violent, and relentless can make a great passer just as much as speed and size can. So it's how we use that talent will determine how much production we get, and that talent is what's up front. What can Brink do, Butcher do, Boyd do, what can Rice do, what can Bronte do, what can Hoftelling do. We got to play to their strength because they're the ones that are playing for us now, not Ellerson Smith. Anybody else?
On with the Panthers, on like your positional teams, what areas do you feel confident in, feel good about, and what areas maybe need improvement right now?
I think you guys hit on, just by your questions, you're going down the right path. I mean, you're hitting the target, just like you see the same thing I see. But what I tell you is, in a press release is, listen, we got to find pass rush. Ellerson was good, okay? Man, you can cut Ellerson loose and I could drop everybody else and he'd still get to him, okay? Not the case this year. So how are we going to create that? First of all, we have to develop the talent, and then when we get close to the game, we got to play the scheme to what the ability is and try to create the same production for them. So it's going to take a team effort on defense to create pass rush. I 100% agree with you. Second thing is we have to do a lot better job in moving the ball in offense. And the way you do that is your tailback's got to make runs that make somebody miss. Your line's going to block and get your 3, 4, 10-yard runs. But those 10-yard runs have to become 40-yard runs because you got to make somebody miss down the field. And that takes a quality back, and it takes more than one because you're going to wear one out. So, yeah, absolutely. That's the competition we tried to bring in, one, to create more than one guy, so there's multiple guys coming at you. I remember JMU, man, they send 3 at you, okay? Everybody gets 3 reps, the next guy comes in. 3 reps, the next guy comes in. But, man, in the fourth quarter, they still had a speed guy coming at you, and your hands were full. So I kind of look at what we played against and what I took from a defensive coach going, dang, good idea when you don't have one great one. Get 3 really good ones, and in the fourth quarter, you still got a lot of energy rolling out there, and he becomes great just because everybody else is getting wore down a little bit. So we did that. Quarterback. We got to get more production out of the quarterback. And when I say that, Will's been doing a good job. But I go back to Eric Sanders, he could win a game by himself. And then he went out there and took the charge of the game, and he made plays that I can't draw on the board. It was off the scramble, it was off the throw, it was the confidence he had and the confidence that was projected to his teammates. And then to help the quarterback, you better get receivers. And we got Isaiah back and Wolf back that we didn't have really at all in the spring. Well, they got to make contested catches. If you watch college football, there's not a lot of wide open guys. The days of Kenny Shedd running by guys by 10 yards is kind of gone for you guys that remember that name. It is contested catches right now, and guys are that close together, and somebody's got to go challenge and make that catch. And that is a talent as much as it's coached. It's a talent that they have to have. So, absolutely, our quarterback receiver game has to improve, which in turn I explain. Our run game has to improve, which means the tight ends. We lost Jayden Scott. We lost who's our guy from West Union? Cresco. Lost him right before the season started last year. Christian Bohr. Lost Christian. Christian would have been the starter last year. Christian got hurt, couldn't come back for the spring. And then Jayden Scott was going to be the starter. He gets hurt in 2-day camp. We're playing with a third-team tight end trying to run the football. So from my perspective, it's absolutely develop the guys you got and don't complain about the ones when they get hurt because the next guy you picked, so you better make him a good player. I mean, they were picked by us, so make him a good player. But at the same time, we're not the NFL where we can trade up and free agency in when somebody goes down. So we got to get multiple guys ready. The tight end has become an outstanding blocker, and quarterback's got to challenge his game. We've done that, and we've got to get multiple running backs to fire at people to get the mismatches that we want. Fair enough?
Mark, you still may have to deal with some of the COVID issues this year, obviously, but your team, can you give us a percentage of like how many of them has been vaccinated, things like that?
I can't. I could probably get close, but I really don't think that's the answer that will make a difference in a media day. I do think that the vaccination matters, absolutely, and it's been talked about, thought about, and because it's more than just addressing it. I think it's educating as much as it is verbalizing it, because we all have our own opinions of it, and being that everybody's got their own personal opinion of that, and it's a personal choice, I believe that the more you're educated, the better choice that you can make that you feel good about after you've made the choice. And that's what we're trying to do through this process. And then yet we'll still have to adapt throughout this whole process, because we've been adapting for forever. We just want to minimize that window of that crack that could happen. If we can minimize it, then absolutely we can be more consistent.
You know,
Coach, sorry.
there's always excitement around, the fall camp and stuff, and obviously this is your 20th fall camp. Is there more excitement considering what you went through, in the spring camp? Was there a lot more excitement surrounding this camp because there is more of a normalcy involved?
Yeah, and where the excitement comes from is when I walked in the room for the first time, even though you knew what was going to happen, there was a full room of people, chair to chair, sitting there, eyes on, and ready to get ready for a season. You saw, we haven't had that for 18 months, okay, where you had 105 guys sitting in a room, shoulder to shoulder, getting ready for one common goal. We've had multiple things and chairs all over the place in 3 different rooms and 2 different practices. That's not a team, okay? That's adapting to a situation that you just had to get done because of circumstance. If you're going to create a team, you need visual, in my world, and what I believe is we need to see people, we need to touch people, meaning be visually around them so you can see their facial reactions, you can see their body reaction, and you can see how they are tired one day and anxious other. But walking in that room, all the excitement of, hey, we're all together with a common goal, with a consistent path. The last time it was like that was the day before we dropped football going into last season. It was August 6th, I believe, on a Thursday. We were supposed to start Friday. We were 1 hour from a meeting and then said, we want to meet with your football team. And from that time on till that day we walked in that room, it's been miserable. And when I say miserable, it wasn't what these guys deserve and what athletics, what football should project, and that's the camaraderie and the working together and the things that really make this a great game, not just the game itself, but what goes on with the relationships of the games. That's what we missed, and that's probably the greatest thing from team sports is that, and we've got the greatest team sport in football. So yeah, it's very. Then we went to the first practice. Everybody's out there on a very nice field. I think it was 88 degrees. Well, it was 88 degrees and 105 in the shade. Okay? And then on top of that, you're playing on that surface that radiates heat. Shoot, we were just glad to be there. Okay? And then we're in our 4th day yesterday when they're normally tired, wore out, trying to keep them healthy and get to the open day. Shoot, they're out there yesterday, coach. Okay? It's just great to be here. So they still sense that and feel that, even though when they're worn a little bit and tired, they still have that sense that, hey, this is a gift that we get to be out here. It isn't a given, it's a gift, and now they understand that when it was taken from them. So I think it's through it all, there's a lot of good that can come from this too, long term. Anybody else?
Where's Bryce Flater in his recovery? And when you look at that group, how do you get those 3 guys on the field with Van Way and Cavalier also back?
Great point, because I'm going to go back to Flater, goes along with Boyd, which goes along with Scott, another guy that can't go full go because he just got cleared, another guy that couldn't lift all summer because he was in rehab, just got cleared, got to bring him along now in the next few weeks. So where's he stand in all this? it'll be based off where he's at 3 weeks from now, because he's not ready today by any means, okay? He's coming off walking around in a sling for 3 months. Now he's activated and doing all the rehab, but you just don't show up and start hitting like this and throwing your shoulder into people as an inside linebacker. Man, that takes time to get your confidence back doing that, and I wouldn't even put him in that situation until it gets in a stronger situation to be able to take on those blows. So yeah, he's a work in progress, and very similar to those other guys. It's like, where are they going to be come game day? He's limited right now in practice. Anybody else?